Hey, what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I am a comic artist and film enthusiast. Haven't drawn any art. Would like to enthuse about some film for literally the third time today. This is the third time I've recorded this video. First time, my camera stopped working. Second time, the sun was so bright on my face that I looked like literally a ghoul. I'm so engaged to see where this story goes. I think Punisher is going to be straight pissed. And third time, hopefully, finally, I want to enthuse about Daredevil Born Again Episode 3. So since this is an episode of a television show, I'm just going to be talking full spoilers about the whole thing. If you haven't seen it, go watch the episode. Go watch the episode. It's so good. And then come watch this video because I think it's going to be a good time. I'm going to start with some things that I don't love about this episode, some things that I absolutely do love about the episode and the show as a whole. And then I'm going to go into John's Theory Corner, a thing I said I wasn't going to do last episode, and well, here we are. I've got some theories, so we're going to do a little bit of John's Theory Corner. But before any of that, I just want to say, real quick, this video is brought to you by me, and also you, kind of. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/JohnBonjour. That makes all of these videos possible. That makes my entire creative world possible. It also makes my free comic, Edge of Bordertown, possible. So if you want to go read that, that is on my website, johnbonart.com. It is also on Patreon. So go read my free comic, and if you have a little extra income, please support my Patreon. On with the show. Things I didn't love about this episode. This one's gonna be... I feel bad. I feel bad about saying this because I know that it's not entirely true, and it's gonna go against some things that I have to say later on in the video. But I really want to see Daredevil. I really want to see him in this show. I just want to see the big red man. I fully understand, and I'll get into this later, that is not what this show is about. Well, it's kind of what this show is about in the sense that it is called Daredevil. But the show is being intentional about not showing us Daredevil right now, and that's the right call. I'm fully aware of that. That is a good and correct call, and I'll stand by that. And also, I really want to see Daredevil. I want to see him beat some ass. My real actual complaint is that I am so unclear on where I am so unclear on where Vanessa and Wilson stand. I thought at the end of the last episode that the whole thing was that Wilson was going to be running the city and Vanessa was going to be running the crime family, and I thought that they were clear on that. And then in this episode, Wilson is running the city and Vanessa starts running the crime family, and Wilson is like, "Don't do that, don't make me not trust you," which is like, I thought that was the thing. I thought that was what we were doing here. I like the dynamic of them being in therapy. I like the dynamic of them both kind of running the dark and light side of the world. I think all of that works really well, but unless I miss something pretty pivotal, I don't think the show is doing a really good job of being clear with where those two characters are at and what their goals are. So far, all we know is that Wilson wants to make New York a better place by eliminating the superheroes of the world. Why that's going to work in his mind, I'm not 100% sure. What his plan is to do that, I'm also not sure. There's a lot of gray area there that I'm really unsure of. And you would think that part of his plan would be to build up the police force so that we don't have to worry about the superheroes. But then he kind of doesn't fund the police to spite the chief, and there's a lot of politics going on there. But it's kind of unclear what he wants. And I will also mention, that's kind of how this character works. So it's entirely possible that halfway through the season, something is revealed about what his plan was that makes all of this make sense. So again, not completely a downside of the show, but just a thing that I'm unclear about, a thing that I'm not totally in love with. That said, those are my only two things about the show that I'm not loving this episode. The CGI really wasn't a problem because there wasn't a bunch of it. That was my major issue from before. And the writing continues to be amazing, which takes me to things that I absolutely do love about this episode specifically. And that is, this was an episode of a law drama. Just through and through, it is not a superhero show this episode. And I love that. I know I said I wanted Daredevil before, and I'll stand by that. I really do. But I love that this is just a full-blown law show. Like, it is a courtroom drama show. And the fact that it is that while also promising to be a Daredevil show, and I'm still on the edge of my seat this entire episode, is crazy. It is such an efficiently, successfully done courtroom show that I care about it, even though it's not the thing I thought this show was going to be. And I'll stand by. I think a Daredevil show needs to be half courtroom law stuff, half Daredeviling. Ideally, that would be kind of interspersed throughout the whole season, but I understand that they're trying to get Daredevil to be this character who is getting back on his feet, so I get that we have to kind of do the first half of the season for this one, mostly Law, and the second half, I assume, mostly Daredevil. I'm very intrigued to see where they go with that, but for now, in these Law moments, This is such a good show. The way that they process the White Tiger elements of this episode, and I think that was probably the most shocking thing, well, the second most shocking thing that happened in this episode, was Matt Murdock revealing the identity of the White Tiger to the entire court. A thing that he argued would be completely illogical and amoral. It doesn't feel out of character, but it's interesting because this show is mostly Matt Murdock right now. It gives us a chance to kind of develop him in a way that we haven't seen since season 1 of the Netflix show. I love that we're getting a chance to genuinely address the morals of Matt Murdock and seeing that he is willing to do some kind of questionable things for the greater good, or for what he thinks is the greater good. I love that element. I love that he is not a good, great guy. He's not a Superman character, and he never has been, and he shouldn't be. But this is a great expression of his moral ambiguity for the greater good, for the end goal, that I think works so well about this character. And if we had gotten more Daredevil early on in the season, we probably wouldn't have time to address something like that. While we're talking about White Tiger, I do think I'd be remiss if I didn't say Kamar De Los Reyes absolutely crushes in this show, and it is a huge bummer that he passed away. I obviously didn't know him or anyone connected to him, but it's always hard when you see someone do something so efficiently, so professionally, so eloquently, and to know that he's not going to be able to be in other things and do other work to that caliber is sad. Marvel was lucky to get him in this. He brings a gravitas and a truth to this character that could so easily come across cheesy and dumb. Doesn't for a second. I'm so glad we got this character. I'm glad we got that actor to play this character, and it is such a shame that we're not going to be able to see more of him. That said, throughout the show and the episode, Daredevil Born Again is doing a brilliant job of layering things in slowly. Like I said, we haven't seen a lot of Daredevil, but we've seen a little bit of the Punisher, and I think that's really interesting, something I'm going to talk about a little bit more in my theory corner. But I love that we're getting a chance to slowly layer in these concepts, these ideas. Watching Matt try to defend White Tiger as a vigilante on the stand, and also try to have an argument with him about how it's not really as good as it seems to be a vigilante. I think that's such an interesting character dynamic. Again, something we wouldn't really get a chance to explore in a more explosive show. The pace of this show is phenomenally good. It is story-driven, character-driven, which is not true of a lot of the other Marvel things, not even just the Disney Plus shows, but just generally speaking. A lot of good Marvel things are very much about getting to the action set piece, ending the movie. Very few of them are really inherently focused on who the characters are and why that drama is important. Which to this point I think is a huge benefit of this show in the way that Matt's and Fisk's character arcs kind of come together. They're obviously two sides of the same coin. We've known that for a long time, but the way that they're both trying not to be this violent side of them. My wife is brilliant in a lot of ways, and she pointed out the way that she put it into words I thought was really good. The first 3 seasons of the Netflix show is Daredevil trying to decide if he's going to be Matt Murdock. This season is Matt Murdock trying to decide if he's going to be Daredevil. And I think that is so perfectly put. Which does take me to John's Theory Corner, a thing that, I promised I wouldn't do, and here we are doing it. I've got about 3. I'm going to knock one out really quick. Officer Morales gets mentioned at one point. Cool little Easter egg. That's the second time Miles Morales has been kind of hinted at in the MCU. Very cool. Can't wait to see him. Not really a theory, just a cool thing I noticed. Number 2, I think my theory about the Punisher gang was right. Not the Punisher's gang, but this gang of cops using the Punisher as this idol that they look up to as what they should be. I think we're going to address that, and I'm very excited to see that, mostly because I'm excited to see what the Punisher has to say about that, because I think he's going to be kind of pissed. When we heard that we might be getting the Punisher for Born Again, I was a little bit thrown off because I feel like we've seen probably the best Punisher Daredevil arc, which is him representing Punisher in court. That's where these characters are most interesting together, watching them fight between whether or not they should kill, whether or not they should defend in law, whether or not the system works at all. Those are all interesting things that we've already kind of covered in season 2, so I was like, I'm not sure why we're doing that. Not that it won't be good to see Jon Bernthal again, but whatever. Now I'm in. I heard that we're getting a Punisher special presentation thing. Great. Give me more Punisher all the time. Jon Bernthal crushes that role. I can't wait to see it. My other theory, and maybe the least morphous theory, is that right? Is that I do think we're going to at some point get Ava Ayla, the White Tiger's daughter, as the new White Tiger. which is very cool. We saw her in court. She doesn't have any speaking lines, I don't think, but she seems like she'll do a good job. She really brought the emotion to those physical facial expressions, so that's great. I don't know that they're setting that up for this show, although I would be intrigued to see how Daredevil handles this up-and-coming vigilante. More importantly than that, though, I think they're opening the door for the potential future of another White Tiger, and for it to be the more well-known White Tiger from the comics, and in my opinion, the more interesting White Tiger from the comics, because she's got a little bit more of that Spider-Man with a little more mysticism. I think she's a very interesting character that I'm excited to see them adapt at some point. I will say, they're getting way better at introducing these characters in a way that I find natural and worth doing. I think hopefully they learned something from the way that they introduced Riri Williams in Wakanda Forever, which really felt like, hey, here's this new character, you should get invested in her so that you get invested in her Disney Plus show, which is not the way to go about it. It should be characters that we're already invested in getting their own shows, or diving into a thing that we've just barely touched on in a way that we find investing. And I think that's probably what this will be, if they ever get around to doing a White Tiger thing before Secret Wars, before everything gets all higgledy-piggledy, jumbled up, redone again. That is pretty much all my thoughts on Daredevil Born Again Episode 3. I think this show is truly phenomenal. It's probably my favorite Disney Plus show, at least so far. We'll see where it goes. Honestly, like, again, we're only 3 episodes in, so it's hard to judge a lot of these things. If the show continues and we only get like 1 to 2 more scenes of Daredevil in the rest of the show, I'd be a little bummed, I'm not gonna lie. Even if it's a really well-made show, there's gonna be a part of me that has to kind of reconcile with that. I don't think that's where we're probably going with this, but who knows? I mean, it's entirely possible that that's what we do. I just don't expect that to be. But what did you think? Do you like Daredevil Born Again? Are you satisfied with it? Do you think it lives up to the Netflix series so far? Where do you think we're going? Do you have any theories for your own personal corner? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, Daredevil, White Tiger, other various types of tigers, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like me to review next, or do none of that because I truly am not your dad. I will say, they're getting really better,